welcome to Wisdom Series, where we're focusing on entertainment. Today, we have someone with my same last, with our same last names, Nadine Zylstra, grinning on the screen. Nadine, tell us a little bit about what you do. Why are you on this
Awesome.
call?
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Michael. I work for YouTube Originals. So we're the division of YouTube that focuses specifically on original content. And I oversee two categories of work globally. The first is learning and impact. So all the amazing ways in which people come to YouTube to learn and really showcase the power of a huge global platform to have a positive impact on the world. And then the second is kids and family, where we focus on programming for 13 unders and specifically thinking about the YouTube Kids app and all the ways we can really use our content to make a positive difference in the life of kids.
So you're the sibling that really succeeded, and and I'm the one stuck here in South Africa. Okay, so we're going to start really broad and just throw out a question with regards to looking at trends that you're seeing on YouTube and maybe contrasting that versus African trends. Are they very similar? Are they noticeably different? Um, what from an entertainment perspective, formats, creators are you guys seeing?
Well, so it's super interesting, actually. I've been at YouTube 6+ years now, and been wild to watch the growth of the platform over the course of the last or these years. We're now at, I think, 2 billion weekly active users. It's just insane to see the scale of impact that the platform has had. And in that time, starting to see these kind of patterns of trends that you'll see, a huge flow of trends around a particular theme, whether it's a gaming theme or a beauty theme, and then it's almost like an organism that it then evolves and suddenly there's a new one that takes over. So I feel like trends, psychologically, you got to think about trends as just ever evolving. And for that reason, we created, and I think you're going to link to it so that anyone who wants it can go and check it out, but we created a specific section of our website that tracks trends. And as our platform becomes bigger, and once it's so big, there's like micro trends within these big trends. And you could think, oh, that's a micro trend, but then you look at it and you're like, oh, that's micro because it's got 30 million people as opposed to 2 billion. And suddenly you're like, oh, well, that's not actually so micro. So I think that trend side is an incredible resource, and one definitely that folks should be looking at when you're trying to stay up to speed with what's happening on YouTube. In terms of where we are right now, it's been really cool to see Minecraft as one of those themes that kind of died down and then just kind of had a total resurgence. So gaming certainly hugely topical, and some really interesting things happening there. I definitely think overall during the pandemic, we saw people coming to YouTube to learn. And whether that was to learn how to do their own sourdough recipes or fix their own dishwashers, like there's definitely a kind of an urge of people coming to the platform to learn. And specifically in Africa, I was looking before this call at some trends from Nigeria and South Africa, and both those countries have very, very strong kind of a learning trigger that people are coming to YouTube specifically to learn. And that's just cool. Like the idea that a platform that's so big and that could be focusing on anything that people are coming to learn, I just think it's an extraordinary accomplishment.
Yes, and I mean, I do think also when we're trying to bridge learning outcomes in on our continent, that YouTube can play a big role in doing that. When we speak of the continent and the region, how's YouTube looking to grow? Are you guys looking at technology at zero rating the content so there's greater accessibility? Um, are there formats that you're seeing that work specifically for our region in contrast to global? What is the YouTube perspective on Africa specifically?
I mean, clearly, mobile first is the way anyone in Africa has to be thinking. I mean, it's overpowering to see how strong the smartphone usage drives usage of YouTube. And and for context, we're seeing in markets like the US huge growth in living room, for example, or people kind of moving, having started on mobile, kind of moving now to other ways to connect with YouTube. So it's super, I think, interesting that in Africa, we're still in that really strong smartphone, mobile first way of thinking. Um, and so once you're thinking smartphone first, then you have to be thinking about new formats like the shorts, which we just announced. We just launched globally just a few weeks ago, I guess. Um, and for anyone who hasn't been tracking the $100 million shorts fund we just announced, I'll just drop that in the chat as well so that you guys can check it out. But we just announced a fund to support the growth of our new shorts product, with $100 million fund, so that creators around the world can be, actually, we're incentivizing people to use this new product feature. And let's just call a spade a spade. TikTok's transformed our perception of what short form is. Like, it used to be YouTube was short form, and that was when you thought about a minute. It's 90 seconds. Now suddenly we're in 10 seconds, 5 seconds. Short form's just totally just transformed the way we think about content.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, you guys have launched this big fund where money goes directly to creators. A portion of those will be African. And when we're discussing short, we're really talking about 15 seconds and under.
Which and look, you only have to look at the power of TikTok to understand how powerful that and particularly for advertisers. I mean, the power of short form storytelling, I'd say advertisers defined. So the fact that we're getting shorter and shorter form, I think super plays into the strengths of a company like Dentsu, and you can imagine your creative teams getting fired up about what you could do with 15 seconds of programming.
I mean, I think it's very funny, and any creatives who listen to this will roll their eyes at me, but they always complain that 15 seconds too short to get across a brand message, and can't they have 90 seconds? And it's always a fight with creatives to get more time and more media. So
Tell that
it's
to Dixie
going to be
D'Amelio.
an interesting challenge for them. Um, so, obviously you've mentioned TikTok and how that's transforming how creators are creating content, and obviously it's very personality driven, and immense followings. In terms of YouTube, who are the breakout stars in terms of people to watch, or creators who, even within their own niches, are making really interesting, unique content, and what could brands and agencies learn from their approach?
Totally. So, we also, last October, launched a Black Voices Fund, specifically designed to build around fresh new voices on the platform. And there's a whole subset of those creators who come from Africa, and I'll put those guys in the chat as well. These are young creators who we're spotting, who we can see have the beginnings of what it takes to be a phenomenon on YouTube. And our goal is that through this fund is to amplify those voices and help them, because YouTube can be a big place to build an audience. And if you're just coming in small, it's you need a bit of help sometimes. So YouTube's goal here is to have this cohort of creators who we're growing so that they can be the next, Eliza Koshy, or one of our huge creators. So so I put that link, the link to a kind of sizzle with a couple of those guys in the chat, and strongly encourage you guys to check out some of those creators. They're awesome. They're from all over Africa. I mean, the creativity coming from our African creators is just awesome.
Amazing. So that kind of leads me to a question that I've always wanted to ask about the calculus or arithmetic of monetizing your presence on YouTube. Like, obviously it's very scale driven, and I understand that it's confidential and you can't give us like exact figures, but in terms of creators on who have a considerable size, or maybe are on the top 10% in their specific vertical, what sort of money are those creators making? I mean, are they getting rich? Are they buying Porsches?
Well, so let's just, for folks who don't know how monetization on YouTube works, but essentially every ad that gets served against a creator's piece of content, they make 55% of that ad revenue. That's like the core business model. That if an ad gets served against my content and I'm registered as a, in good standing creator, at the thresholds that I'm needed in order to monetize, then I make 55% of that revenue. um, and there are creators in our world, and not hard to Google this and find out, but making 6 7 figures. Like there's people making a lot of money, and that's both on platform, from our ads, but also from integrations that they're working with brands. I mean, I think for a company like you guys, like there's wonderful partnerships to be made between the creators and brands, that again, people are getting paid a lot of money to do. um, so I think the point to make is a lot of that depends on where your audience comes from. So if you've got a huge following in a country that doesn't have a great CPM, then you're not going to make as much money as if you're that same creator with those same views working in Japan. Like, depending on where the ad industry is in the market where you are generating the most views, will fundamentally impact how much money you're going to make. So, I think that just means we need more and more brands to understand the power of the platform, so that those CPMs can become sustainable, so that creators can make the kind of living that we're seeing creators making here.
That is kind of put cold water on my idea of, becoming a YouTube influencer, giving
Well,
up
yeah. Well,
advertising.
although I think one of the coolest things is, like, looking at K-pop, for example, where the creators, or the Hallyu, any of those guys from the Hallyu wave, are making content for Korea, but seeing 80% of their views coming from outside Korea. And so I think the opportunity for creators in Africa is huge, especially as we see shows from Africa penetrating the world just because they're awesome. It's awesome content. I think it's a wonderful way for creators to kind of rethink their audience, that just because you're from Nigeria doesn't mean you need to be making a show for Nigeria. And just as a case in point, we're working with a Kenyan production company on an awesome kids show called Super Sema. Lupita Nyong'o's the EP. All the animations made locally, all the voices are created there. Like, it is 100% a show from Kenya, but our viewership, maybe there's 2% of the views coming from Africa. Like, the viewership's very, very global. And I think honestly, that's the opportunity for Africa. Is these digital platforms mean that you don't have to be on your local broadcaster who's programming to your local audience. Like, the globe's your audience, and come up with a show that's going to connect with them, and you really can build a monster hit.
Okay, well, I'm going to check that out. And then, just in closing, are there any exciting formats that you're seeing? I mean, you obviously mentioned this kind of condensation of time. But obviously, you partner with creators and brands across the world. And are you seeing some interesting formats? Are there,
I mean,
or is it just a
the
repetition
other
of?
big thing we're seeing is like a Uber trend, which I'm really excited about, and we've got a lot of programming coming out around this, is an explosion in interest in sustainability. That people upcycling and green hacks, and like our audience is young, in that 14 to 24-year-old demo, and sustainability is a huge, huge, huge area of interest for them. So I think as a macro trend that will be around for a while, but is very powerful, I think, for brands, sustainability is a really interesting one to look at.
Nadine, thank you so much. I know you were interviewing Kamala Harris and you had to squeeze it into your crazy schedule. Um, but we're going to circulate the links and hopefully that excites a whole lot of people on this call. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Max.